How do I find a new job? How can I make a career change? And the biggest question of all, can I really find a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to be at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I get what companies are looking for when hiring top talent. What that means for you is an unmatched combination of insider knowledge and the best kept secrets about making heart-based career changes and navigating the ups and downs of job searching in today's world of work. Whether you're a recent graduate navigating the job market for the first time or a seasoned professional ready for a career change, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to be challenged and inspired to move beyond your self-doubt and take the right next steps towards landing a career you love. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, your host, and today I'm thrilled to be here for another installment of Flourishing Together. This month, we're doing something extra special, an entire month of interview episodes. In honor of February, a month celebrating relationships and friendships, we're going all in with weekly conversations that will uplift and inspire. Today, I am honored to introduce you to Denise Wolf, someone whose story is a testament to resilience and purpose. As a first-generation college graduate, Denise's career started in retail management, a path she fell into as a young 20-something. But deep down, she knew she wanted more, work that she could pour her heart into. After a period of soul-searching and earning a master's in educational counseling, Denise discovered her love for higher education. But her journey wasn't easy. When she graduated in 2010, hiring freezes forced her back to retail. But she never gave up. Just months later, she landed her first role as an academic advisor at UC Santa Cruz, taking a leap of faith into a career she loved. Since then, Denise has built an incredible career in higher education, earning her doctorate, taking on the director role for a Christian university as they created a coaching program. And today, she is part of a dynamic team building a new online university. She has also felt called to start her own career coaching business called Grace Career Coaching. Over the past 5 years, she's enjoyed helping clients overcome barriers to reaching their full potential and purpose. Denise, your story is one of perseverance and purpose, and I'm so excited for you to share it with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, I did just share a little bit about your path from retail management to higher education, but this is a very inspiring story. So can you tell us more about it?
Sure. Yes. So when I first graduated from college, I moved from Montana to California, and I was with my fiance at the time. And so it was like almost going to a different country. I had no friends. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was going to work in public relations, but the .com bust had just happened. And so no one was hiring. And the one thing that I could continue to do was work at the Gap. And so I did that. And I got promoted pretty quickly. So I had some hope. I was, okay, maybe this retail management thing, this is where it's at for me. But I was really lost. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any mentors in my life. I didn't have many tools to search out a career that I could bring with me from my college experience. And so I started to really get depressed, honestly. And as I realized that there was pieces that I loved of this career, however, it didn't really feel like it fully fit for me. Anyone that's worked in retail management knows the rigor of the lack of work-life balance. So it's a challenge. When you're working weekends, you're working on the day after Thanksgiving, you're working all the holidays. It can be really tough. And you're working for very little. And so no matter how hard I tried to make it fit, it just didn't. And so I set out to try and discover what that looked like for me. And that's when I first realized that my work that I do to support myself as a living needed to be more than that. It needed to be something that gave me a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. And that was the first time that I realized that, okay, this is more to me. My background is one in which I come from a blue collar family. My dad was an electrician until he retired, from the beginning to the very end. So I saw this vision of career that was one that was just like, you get into one thing and you stay there and you do it until the very end. And no matter if you like it or you don't, it pays the bills. So I really, for the first time, had this new vision of what career meant. And so I sought out resources on my own to try and figure out what to do with my life.
Yeah.
So it was very much a soul searching process. Unfortunately, I was doing a lot of it on my own, which I don't recommend. But through that process, I found myself taking a position as a recruiter at a nanny agency of all things. And it was through a woman that I met at the Gap. She was one of my customers. And I remember her giving me her business card. And I was like, wow, what is this? And a girl from Montana, there's no such thing as nannies. So in Palo Alto, California, then you're like, okay, this is a whole new world. And so I did that work for a couple of years, and it gave me that sense of working one-on-one with people, coaching people, counseling these nanny candidates and the families on how to build this relationship and how to make a match. And so that really gave me the confidence that I needed to then transition and go back to school and pursue where my heart really was, which was in counseling, educational counseling. So that really was the main turning point for me to go back and get my master's degree. It was in my master's degree that I got an internship at the university that I was at. And all of a sudden I was like, I really want to work in higher education. And so that really was a turning point for me as well, because I'd always thought I wanted to work in a high school setting. And so from there, that was my goal, is that I wanted to work as either a career counselor or an academic advisor in the college setting. And so I went through the journey and the grueling process of finishing my master's degree and working like 3 jobs and doing all that. And then I finished, and there was, as you mentioned, there was hiring freezes. And so it was hard. I had to really humble myself. And so I had to get a job because we needed the money. So I could get a retail management job because that's what my experience lied in.
Mm-hmm.
I even tried to go back to the nanny agency, and that door wasn't open. I'm like, what do I do? So it was hard, but I didn't give up. And I did find myself being able to launch into the higher ed career that I had hoped for. And it did bring me purpose, and it still does today. I really found being able to help students, and now any person, to try and navigate what it is that they want to do with their life, whether that's their educational goals and journey, or whether that's within their career, that using the experience that I've had and to help them has been so rewarding for me.
Yeah.
So even now today, where I'm in higher level leadership positions within the university that I work in, I love being able to have that connection and knowing that I am making a difference and serving a greater good.
Yes, and we are all better for it, for sure. You have quite the story, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I feel like it's super relatable, where you said, I tried to make it fit. How many of us have tried to make it fit, where you think, oh my gosh, just do this, just stuff myself into this thing that's totally not right for me and just try to make it work because I should, or whatever reason, And oh my goodness, I can totally understand that, and I can feel it in my core. And kudos to you for navigating that and pushing through to really figure it out. What kind of guidance would you give someone who feels stuck, like they kind of just fell into their career and they can't get out of it? What would you say?
I would tell them that it's a good opportunity to try and articulate, really explore, meditate on what they do and don't like about where they're at. It comes down to the real basics. I feel like is like, what are the pros and cons of where you're at right now? How do you feel? But sit with it for a little bit. And this is what I share with my clients to journal about it. If you don't already journal, it's a good time you might want to start. And to write down, like, what do I love in my day and what do I not like in my day and I wish I could change? And then start to take off the blinders, as I like to say, and look for those things that you enjoy in your day. Look for those aha moments. Look for inspiration in your day. And some might say, what does that really have to do with what I'm going to do next with my career? But things find us when we least expect it. The nanny recruiting role that I found, that customer found me at the Gap. I would have never known that that existed. Now, was it my end all be all? No, but it was a turning point for me to gain confidence in an area that I wanted to go, but I lacked the confidence to get there. So it was a necessary stepping stone. So we have to be aware in our surroundings. And so I will tell clients, even when you're at the coffee shop, lift up your eyes, be open to who's in front of you to have a conversation, because you never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to see that might just spark that idea of what your next step could be, and then to write about it. So that for me is really what I would advise is the very beginning stages of exploration. And I call this the fun part. For most, it's scary, but it can be fun and exciting if we allow it to be.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I always say this. One of my favorite things is it doesn't have to be all blood, sweat, and careers. We can have a little bit of fun. And so I'm thrilled that you mentioned that. And the other thing that really stood out to me of what you just shared there was being open and noticing and being curious even. So, and a lot of times, like what you were saying too around, like life and work, how do we bring those together? So what do you love in your life? That can give you clues and inspiration on how you could bring more purpose and more energy and more inspiration into your career. So sometimes like those unexpected places are maybe our bookshelves. Like, what do I like to read? Or I go into a bookstore, which section do I go to? Like these are little clues that can give you that inspiration and help you be open and curious to what might be next. And I love the nanny story and how that happened at the Gap because you just never know. And it's so funny too, when you're sharing all of this, I can't help but think like hindsight is 2020, right? So we can go back and connect the dots and see how everything happens. But when we're living through it, it's so hard. So just having that open-mindedness and that curiosity and the journal and the pen to keep things, to keep things top of mind can be really helpful. So great guidance there. Thank you. Now, transitioning from retail to academia into career coaching certainly requires courage and confidence. And talk to us a little bit about how you kind of gain that confidence and then maybe some strategies for folks that are struggling to make a career change.
I would say that for me, my internship really helped that's a real practical tip that I can offer. So if you're trying to make a career change and you don't have any experience in that space, or you don't think you do, really we end up having transferable skills and experiences. And so that's where a career coach can be helpful to help you see that. But also gaining some experience, even if you volunteer in the space. And I've shared that with some folks too, if it's an area in which you can do so. So my internship that I had, it allowed me to start offering career counseling to college students. And that's when I first got exposed to career counseling and coaching as a thing. And that really opened my eyes, but it helped me also to gain confidence and I knew I was getting really good training. It was a wonderful environment to have an internship in because I got great training. So that training also gave me confidence to know that even though I'm trying to launch into this new area, I have this experience that I'm gaining that I can lean on. And I really took a look at my experience in retail and all of the pieces that are transferable, and which there were many. My communication skills, I was a manager, so my leadership skills, different things like that. And so I began to build the narrative with help from others, of course, that how this can relate to my next field and how to tell my story in a way that will show that person at that university I want to work at that what I've done, it relates to what you're wanting me to do. And so that helped a lot. I think I had a lot of hope that it was going to work out, that I was heading in the right direction because I'd seen good results. I had those moments with students in my internship where I was like, yes, like this fits. There's that feeling, you just know that it's right. And so when you're there, I also use that to help build my confidence and let my passion show for what I was experiencing in my interviews when I was going out and trying to get that next position. And so I would say that that really helped as well. Usually when we're trying to pursue that next thing and we're seeking it with purpose, that passion is going to speak louder than any experience that we don't have.
Yes.
And so I really leaned on that heavy, because that you can't train, you can't teach, you can't do any, that is in you.
Yes.
So I really lean on. So I would encourage anyone that's trying to make a transition to really lean on that. Lean on that passion that you have for what you're trying to do, because you are likely pursuing it because it is something that's in your heart that you have purpose towards. So, and then just to have hope that it is going to work out. And that hope for me also drove my confidence.
There is so much goodness in everything you shared. I'm over here, listeners, if you could see me, I'm nodding, I'm like cheering. There's just so much goodness in here. Oh my gosh. Okay, a couple things I want to make sure that we point out. First and foremost, confidence does not happen overnight. It is built through the courage of taking action. So clearly that's what we heard in this story is it's all about taking action. Even the tiniest action will give you the confidence to keep moving forward. And so when you're taking action, great ideas, Denise, the internship, the volunteer work, I call them experiments, like go out and join a team and do an experiment of whatever it is that you think that you want to learn. If you wanted to be a career coach, go help your friends, see how they respond to it. So get out there and do it is the best way to build the confidence. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, you talked about the passion and the energy. This is in my opinion, this is one of the most underutilized pieces of job search, career transition, interviewing, all the things is the energy and the passion that you bring to the table makes such a huge difference. So I wish everybody knew this. We want every career transitioner, everyone to know that really is true. When you showcase your energy and your excitement, people can't help but feed on that, and they're going to want you on the team. So I'm so glad that you brought that to the forefront. And of course, hope. You have to have the hope that there's something, bigger and better for you out there, and then let that carry you forward. So, oh my goodness, I just want to reiterate everything that you said. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really, really good guidance. Now, you talk about purpose. I like talking about purpose a lot as well with folks. So you emphasize that your purpose and your career can align. So how do you help people identify whether their current path aligns with a purpose or if it's time for a change?
I think it's something that's very personal, and that it's something that we feel, at least for me, from my experience and from what and working with others that I've seen, is something in our heart, in our gut that we feel. We know when it aligns. When we get up for work every day and we are ready to go. I mean, there's days we're not going, that we may not feel like it. But for the most part, if we are motivated to hit that day and we're excited about it and we're excited about the work we're going to be doing, then it's likely it is aligned with our purpose. When we find that it's the grueling days are more, they outweigh and outnumber the good days, then that's probably a sign it isn't aligned with what our purpose is. And for some of it's more important than others that meaning in our career is there. But I found it's something that it's kind of that gut feeling, like this does not fit. And I've even had that in positions when I'm at a university, I'm doing the job that's within my purpose, but something has shifted and the place that I'm at is not a fit for where I am. And so that is a good indicator too, to be like, okay, what needs to change? What needs to shift here? Is it me? Is it where I'm at? And so I think it's a good, I call it just doing a temperature check of where we're at to see, okay, because I don't want to ever compromise my purpose and passion that I was created for by ignoring that feeling that I get within my gut that says something's not right. And if I ignore that, then I'm not going to be performing at the level that I should be.
Right.
So that's something that's important to me as well. So it could be the career, like the career field could be right. It just could be where you're at, how you're working, what you're doing exactly that is out of alignment. And we need to recognize that and reflect on it, and then potentially look at making a change.
Yes. And I'm glad that you mentioned, kind of that feeling at first, because it's the dread, like, oh my gosh, I got to go do this again today. I remember actually one point in my career, I was literally wishing the days away. I'm like, oh my God, I just have to get through this month. I just have to get through this week. And it was like, why am I wishing my days away? Like, this is terrible. This is not how it should be. And when work takes up so much of your lives, you're right. Not everyone's going to have a lot of purpose or meaning in their work. They have other things. But when we work for a third of our lives, we might as well try to make it count and in some type of alignment with who we are as a person. And so yeah, that feeling, every single day, I call it an energy audit sometimes. So go back and do an energy audit and look at your week and see what you were really excited about and what percentage of the week were you excited versus drained. Like that's a good way just to do kind of a temperature check, a gut check. And then being mindful of figuring out what might be out of alignment. And I talk to folks a lot, and you probably do too. It's like there are different seasons of career. So, you might be in a season where you're taking care of loved ones. And so you need a little bit more flexibility in this season, and maybe that's going to be the priority versus, getting up and hitting the ground running at 7:30 in the morning. Like there's different, like life changes basically, right? Like life changes and circumstances change and you change. And that's the beauty of being a human. And we can evolve our careers to match that. So it's not 35 years in one profession like our parents did. It's not like that anymore. So I'm glad that you shared that. And the fact, like just giving people permission to notice and make those changes. And sometimes it might be a little change, like maybe just working from home for 2 days a week or something. And sometimes it is a bigger change, a role change or a location change or a industry change, and just trying to figure out, what's going to help bring that into alignment. So.
And I think what comes to mind too is it's not failure.
Right.
And I think for me at times in my career, I thought, oh, man, I failed, but it's not, it's just like you said, it's life. It's how it goes.
Yes.
And so for me, because I'm my own worst enemy and I like to beat myself up. And so, it was a good lesson for me to learn that I didn't fail. I just needed to change some things.
Yes.
And so because our confidence can decline if we are focusing on it as a failure.
Yeah, that's huge. A lot of times people are so afraid to make a change because of that, or they're afraid to make a change because they think they will fail. And it holds a lot of folks back. And so I'm so glad that you shared that. And one thing, let me know if this resonates with you, because I was talking with somebody about this recently, and I actually have recorded podcasts about this, but this idea of like, quitting is not failure. So quitting and moving on is not a failure. And then I've changed the word quit to complete. So when I left corporate, it wasn't a failure. That time of my life was complete. Yeah. And now it was time to do something different. And so that, I think, can just kind of give you a different view or a different outlook. Like it doesn't you don't ever consider yourself a failure. Like that's complete. Let's move on. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love how you say that. I'm going to use that.
Please do. And I'm so glad you brought up the failure piece, because I know that resonates with so many people. Yeah. The fear of that is a big deal. So
yes, absolutely.
Now, there are a lot of obstacles. Fear of failure is one of them that folks face when pursuing purpose-driven careers. But talk to us about some of the other obstacles that you see when you're coaching folks.
Yes. Some of the obstacles that I see people faced with are not, especially if they're trying to get into a field that is really brand new. For me, one of the strategies that I think is so invaluable is informational interviewing. So talking to somebody that is doing the job. And so sometimes obstacles can be in finding someone that you know, or that maybe you don't know, that you can talk to, and helping folks to see that it's not asking for a job. It's simply, tell me about what it's like to do the work that you do. Tell me what it's like to work where you work. So it's helping to see that and get over the fear that you can reach out to someone, even if you don't know them, and see if they would give a moment of their time. Will you always be successful? Probably not, but there's times that you may be. I tell my clients a story. I tried it out myself. There was a moment when I was in higher ed, probably about 10 years ago, where I was like, oh, because the pay is not the best.
Right.
So there was a moment where my purpose and my needs were clashing.
Yes.
And so I lived in Silicon Valley at the time. And so I'm like, corporate sounds so much better right now because my needs are great. And so I reached out to this woman. She worked for this tech company, and she had a really intriguing educational background. And what she studied at Stanford I was like, that's awesome. So I just hit her up on LinkedIn. And it wasn't even that I was really interested in that company. And I ended up doing an informational interview with her. I actually ended up interviewing for the company.
Oh my God.
It was like totally like this rabbit trail that happened. And I didn't get the job. And that's okay, because it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that happens is sometimes we're rerouted.
Yes.
It's like, nope, that's not where you're supposed to go. You belong over here.
Yes.
So let's recenter on your purpose. I learned that through that process. But I tell the story because that was such a great example. And what I really learned from it was I reached out to somebody cold, and I had a wonderful conversation with her. And it actually ended up in me pursuing this pathway potentially with the company. And so I share that with clients, is that don't have any fear. People love to tell their story. They love to help, really.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do.
Yes.
And so, and I find that is an obstacle for people trying to get into one of the many, trying to get into a new field, is that they don't know where to start spreading their network.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be tricky. So I share that story in that we have nothing to lose.
This is true.
The pathways that get open from that can be really inspiring. And again, easy to connect the dots in hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great story, a real live story, friends.
Yes.
That, folks that are listening, I feel like I have the conversation around the outreach and the networking and, all of that pretty much daily. It's definitely an obstacle that people face. So here's a real life story where it worked, and it turned into gathering a lot of great information. And that's really what it's about, is to gather the information to make the most informed decision. Because the last thing you want to do is make a change and then 3 months in or 3 days in, figure out that you made a mistake. And not that it would really be a mistake, because it's never going to be a mistake, but find out that it's not really what you wanted it to be. So when you have informational interviews with folks that are doing the work, that's the best way to find out. And asking good questions is the best way to find out whether or not you're gonna like it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, the cold outreach on LinkedIn is definitely a thing. So it's hard to do. So good for you for giving it a shot and shoot your shot. We say that a lot in my little community, like, got to shoot your shot, because you never know if you're going to score unless you shoot.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I also have to bring up the rerouted. So this happens. This is what life is about when things aren't meant to be and you get rerouted. Yes, that can be discouraging and disheartening and things, but at the same time, it's probably for a reason. And so just remember that. And again, hindsight is 2020. You will look back and recognize that it all happened just the way that it was supposed to in the future. You will know that. Now, you and I both believe that having faith in something higher, whether that's God, the divine, the universe, is a critical piece to career success and happiness. So how does faith help individuals navigate their professional paths?
Yes. So for me, my story, I don't want to say it's unique, but for me, I have two very different chapters. In the beginning half of my career, I didn't have faith in really anything other than myself.
Okay.
So I had no understanding, really. So that I got as far as I did without that is a miracle in itself. For me, and what I was just sharing too about being rerouted and those doors that are closed, it's for good reason. It gives me peace.
Yeah.
I'll share an example for after I got my doctorate degree. So I was in a role that now I was pretty overqualified for. And I thought that all the doors would open and they say, yes, here's a director position. We're going to give this to you now that you have your doctorate degree. And like, the red carpet would roll out, but none of that happened. And so I found myself on the hunt. And this is 2019. So we're bumping up against COVID. So I'm on the hunt. Like, what is my next move? I went into this doctorate degree thinking like it was going to be the ticket. And during that process is when I came to believe in a higher power, which I call God, in my life. And I came to understand what faith looks like. And all of a sudden, I had this peace in my job search that I had not experienced before. And I understood for the first time that one example, I went for this director interview, and the woman that called me and told me I didn't get the job, she's like, I actually don't know why you didn't get the job. She's like, you're very qualified. And she's like, I'll send you more job opportunities, but we just went with the other candidate. And I was like, the door closed for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had peace in knowing that my faith helped me with that. That, even though I'd gone through this grueling day-long interview process and all that, I knew that, okay, there's something greater out there for me, and this isn't it. And so there was a few more opportunities like that were just brick walls. And when you're at a director level at a university or higher, these interviews are day-long extravaganzas with dinners, and it can be fun, but it's also exhausting.
Yes.
And so after doing a few of those, it does wear on you. And so and in my experience with my faith, I prayed a lot about what that next step was. And really what I heard was to wait and be patient.
Wow.
And so without that faith in my process, I'm not quite sure if I would have been back in the old days of like Denise controls everything. I would have been anxiety ridden. Who knows? I would have been so stressed, right?
Yeah.
But I was able to hang on to this peace and hope that there was something greater out there for me. And what happened almost towards the end of 2020 is that a door did open, and it happened instantly. I had no grueling interview. No, this position happened at a Christian university here in Northern California, and they were starting a new program. They needed a leader to run the program, and it happened so fast. And I remember I was like, wow, thank you God for this opportunity. And like, you were right, it was worth the wait. And so for me, that's how I exercise my own faith. And so I encourage anyone else, whatever that looks like for you, to grab a hold of it, because controlling it ourselves is painstaking. So lean on that higher power in your life, whatever that may look like, and know that there's the right thing there for you. And if there's a closed door, it's for good reason.
Yes.
So I really learned that through that process.
Oh my gosh, Denise, I love that story. It's so relatable too. But the best part is how easy that the current position was. I call that an effortless opportunity, where it's just like, here I am. It's like the final piece of the puzzle, or, maybe a big piece of the puzzle is right here. And oh my goodness, I love it so much. The word peace, when you said that, I got goosebumps. I got like chills through me. You can tell that it's something you really believe, and just that knowing of being held. I feel like that's what it is. It's like this knowing that I'm being held and everything's working in my favor no matter what, or even if it's tough, like even if it's going through a lot of those closed doors. Oh my goodness, I love that story so much. Thank you so much for sharing it. It's going to be really helpful for folks. Now, as we wrap up, I always like to close these conversations with a flourishing favorite. So a book or a podcast or a resource that's really had a significant impact on you and your career, and then maybe a little bit about why you would recommend it to our listeners.
Yes. So I had to dig deep for this one. But what I came back to was the beginning. And at the beginning of my journey of trying to figure out on my own what I wanted to do besides be a retail manager, I went to Barnes & Noble and got What Color's My Parachute?
Oh, yes.
by, I think, Richard Bowles. And it's an old book, but a good one. And in fact, as I was getting ready for this podcast, I was like, you know what? I need to revisit that. And so I have no better resource than to recommend, because that is really what helped me in a position where I was kind of self-helping, really.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that. If you're really exploring, what am I meant to do? That really helped me. And having something, I'm academic. And so
Yeah.
having something tell me I fill out a thing and it tells me, and then I'm like, okay, that confirms that
Yes.
I'm heading in the right direction. And so I needed that in my
Yeah.
process. And so I encourage anyone that's really in that stage to check it out. It helped me.
Definitely. I think that was one of the most early books around like career exploration, discovery. I
Yeah.
mean, it was before, this is obviously a thing now, but it was before all of that. So
Yeah.
why not go back to the roots? I
Yep.
think that's great idea. So we'll make sure we add that to the show notes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Denise. Listeners, if you are looking for a career coach rooted in a faith-based approach to purpose, Denise is your person. So, Denise, where can people find you?
On my website at gracecareercoaching.com.
Perfect. Well, Denise, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of this heartfelt wisdom and these fabulous stories. It has been such a joy.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Listeners, as always, the notes from today's episode will be on the blog at flourish.careers/blog. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.